What's the dumbest thing someone has ever told you? It's dangerous to listen to your own heartbeat with a stethoscope. They said your heart will try to match what you heard and that will in effect stop your heart. There was no explanation given when asked why medical personnel didn't have issues listening to patients with heartbeat irregularities. A woman I worked with when I was about 20 believed in spontaneous generation of life, gene ratio spontanea, e.g., rats would come into existence within a pile of food and paper waste without the necessity of a mommy and daddy rat. Had a teacher tell our class that it can't rain over water. She proceeded to tell us that if the clouds are over water they will just wait until they were over land so it doesn't waste water. My aunt argued with me that humans have two hearts, one on each side. She didn't know the difference between heart and lungs. My boyfriend left his apartment for a week, came back, and saw shoot and a used washcloth in his private bathroom toilet. His roommate was the only one there. When confronted, he swore on everything that a demon had done it, and tried to put the blame on him. I've been told by multiple people that fish aren't animals. Water runs downhill, which is south. Water cannot flow north, because that's uphill. They were very surprised to hear the reality. I had a customer insist that $100, $40 equals $80. Me? What is 10 for? Customer. 6. Me? Yes. So what is 140? Customer. 80. SMH? That they thought Mount Rushmore was a natural wonder. They literally thought it appeared in nature that way. Regular bras don't go under plain shirts. Only blouses. This girl was appalled I was wearing a normal bra instead of a sports bra under a graphic shirt. Lectured me about how it's not right. Had a roommate that owed taxes 1 year, so he didn't file the return. He corrected his withholding so he would get a refund the next year. Filed that return. 6 weeks later he gets a note from the IRS that he owed from the prior year, and they were using his refund to pay it, and he still owed them for interest and penalties. His reply: they can't do that. They can, and they did, and their next step was going to be to garnish his wages if he didn't reply. My third grade teacher told me that I had spelled grateful incorrectly and proceeded to mock me. Are you talking about a cheese grater here? It's spelled grateful. No calories in toast. Whiskey stops cancer. Plus you don't get cancer from menthol cigarettes. When they passed the law in Illinois that requires you to turn on your headlights whenever windshield wipers are needed, a guy told me that he always gets mixed up which way they mean. That if I froze my water bottles before putting them on my bike, for long rides on hot summer days, they would weigh more. I just stared at him. A girl told me she couldn't get a sunburn because there was too much wind. Same girl insisted she would become a doctor. I asked why she thought she couldn't tan or sunburn if there was a breeze with a clear sky and 100 degrees Fahrenheit weather. She explained that the wind would cause her to not sweat so she wouldn't tan. A guy at work told me that STDs were created by people having multiple sexual partners. When I pointed out that you could have a group of people that slept together and if none of them had any diseases they wouldn't catch anything, he just shook his head and told me that's not how it works. We had a team lunch some years ago, and I ended up in a conversation with one of our account managers, a woman in her 30s who worked for a multi-million-pound company. She insisted that the sun was the same size distance as the moon, and stars were asteroids falling to Earth. This was long before the whole flat Earth idiocy kicked off, and to this day stands out as the most astoundingly ignorant thing I've ever heard. My wife's sister is married to a guy who wouldn't go to see Jurassic Park because he thought dinosaurs never existed. My college roommate was so bad we started a list. My favorite two are: peach is not a color, only a fruit, but orange is both. Latinas come from Latin, as in the country Latin. When asked if he could show us where that was on a globe, he pointed to what was clearly marked Uzbekistan. A coworker once told me after a storm, I got to work twice as fast this morning because all the traffic lights were out. The only reason they lived was because everyone else on the road knew that traffic lights default to an all-way stop when they're out. I work in childcare. A parent got mad at me Because I put their little boy in a pink diaper? Because they didn't pack extras? Despite several reminders, I was told I'm trying to turn their son gay because of the color of a diaper. That Africa doesn't have access to the oceans. This was in 9th grade, but still, I gasped. Once had a coworker acquaintance who was about to get married tell me he was already planning to cheat on his wife. Not that he already had someone lined up, but that he would find someone just to cheat with. Why? Because 50% of spouses have affairs, and that since it was him, it wouldn't be her. When the directions on a microwave meal say to keep the item in the microwave for some time after finishing, it's to allow the extra microwaves to get out of that food so it doesn't hurt you. I just found out Europe wasn't a state, it's its own country. Ben B. 2017. During spring, you see how the sun is staying up longer in the evening? That's because of global warming. A fricking science degree college graduate. I'm pretty sure they don't even have roads and cars up in Canada. Californian dude vacationing in Idaho around 60 miles from Canada border. Once I was talking about the seasonal weather difference between the US and Argentina with some coworkers, as I had traveled to Buenos Aires during our winter, but it was summertime there. Anyway, one of said coworkers asked, okay, so what month is it over there right now? So I paused and then had to explain to them that although there's a seasonal difference, the calendar year/month still aligns with the rest of the world. Shortly after that, my other coworker who overheard this exchange and happened to be from New Zealand, just looked at me afterwards, puzzled, and said, "Wow, I really thought they were joking. It was a serious question. The reason you aren't getting better is because you aren't sending enough positive energy out into the universe." My neurologist. Turns out I had autoimmune encephalitis. I once found a big bulldog in my backyard. I don't own a bulldog. He was a big, friendly, but slow-witted guy. He looked healthy and had a collar, but no tags, so I knew he was a local. I made sure he had water and went to the front yard to start knocking on doors. As soon as I stepped outside, I saw the family 3 houses down all gathered in their front yard. So another case closed for our young detective. I walked over to them and said, "You guys missing a bulldog?" The mother looked at me and said, "Is his name Tyson?" The question took me aback. I mean, he didn't have tags. They knew he didn't have tags. So all I could think to say was, "He didn't say, but I'm pretty sure he's yours." To this day I wonder if that woman knew how dumb that question was. I was going 30 miles per hour in the 30 zone. The police station is on the street, so I'm always super cautious there. Anyway, an officer pulled me over and claimed I was going 50. I got his dashcam footage. Clearly showed me not speeding, but part of the footage, you can see the police officer going 40 miles per hour to catch up to me. Someone defended the officer by saying, if you were really going 30, then why did the officer have to drive 40 miles per hour to catch up to you? I'm like, I'm going to assume you're joking here, but by some bizarre circumstance that you're actually being serious. In order to catch up to anything, you have to go faster than it. If I was going 50, he wouldn't have ever caught up going 40. I once had to correct someone who was adamant that Earth had 17 moons. A girl just admitted that she didn't know cows were mammals and omnivores are a thing. We're in college. She's a freaking lab assistant. When I was a math tutor, legit had a girl try to tell me there were only 12 hours in a day. I'm great at explaining stuff in ways people can understand, but man, that was a challenge. The moon is fake and gravity doesn't exist. I told them to prove it and pointed to the nearest tall building. Isaac Newton invented gravity with the help of Albert Einstein, stared at them for a while then left. Playing cards against humanity with a group of friends. The judge is reading the cards everyone played and struggles with the pronunciation of one, saying something we think is along the lines of coccyx. We explain to him what your coccyx is and move to the next round. Next round starts and we start talking about who played the coccyx card since it seemed out of context, and everyone claims they don't remember playing it. We asked the judge to flip the cards from the previous round. The word was khakis. We were 20. Kinda the same concept. I was showing a coworker some nighttime sky objects. I pointed to a bright object, telling a North Dakota HS graduate that it was Jupiter, another planet. He asked, "Is that one of those things they sent up in the space shuttle?" Early 1980s. Ron, if you read this, I'm sorry for laughing at you. Follow up. Later that night, when others teased him about this story, he replied, "Sorry folks, but I am not a geologist. I don't get off the farm much. You know what makes me happy? So when you don't do it, you are intentionally making me unhappy." I was so dumbfounded by this logic that I couldn't make an argument at all. A girl once told me she wouldn't swallow because it has the same amount of calories as a full roast dinner. I just laughed and told her if that was true, she'd just solved world hunger. I recently met a grown-ass adult who didn't know that Hawaii was a US state. She cheated, but she wants to save the relationship and is trying really hard, so I think I owe it to her. Ended up getting cheated on 2 more times before he took my advice, and then ended up blaming me for being unhappy. Not friends with him anymore. Might not be the dumbest thing on here, but I'm still mad as hell at this guy. He moved to Canada a couple years ago onto a piece of property next to us. He proceeded to cut down nearly every tree he had, including some large, old sugar maples that we knew to be excellent sap producers. He left maybe 5 young maple trees, all close to the road. We find they don't produce as well. We think it might be because of road salt. He tapped his 5 trees. The first time I met him, he said to me, "I tapped my trees, but they're not running. They're just dripping." Holy frick, what an idiot. That's what a running tree does. You should have known that before you cut down all your best trees. You'd think if he intended to make some syrup for himself, he'd do some fricking research first and actually keep some maples. I'm extra salty because this piece of property used to be so beautiful. Those large trees let just enough light into a meadow of snowdrops, wildflowers, and daffodils in the spring. It was straight out of a fairy tale. It's now an open field bordered by brambles. He's built the ugliest fricking house and erected not 1, but 2 garages made of industrial shipping containers. Also, he threatened to shoot our dog. Needless to say, my family and I do not like him much at all.